I didn't cause this. I didn't do it.
As we all know, Rihanna recently gave birth to her third child, but instead of keeping quiet, she is out there creating waves, not the hair kind, and causing serious trouble. This time directed directly at Beyonce. Despite being in the same orbit over the years because of Jay-Z, they have never collaborated, not even for a small project. And now we're beginning to recognize why, as it seems that there is much more going on behind those picture-perfect pictures and award show grins. Rihanna used to actually look up to Beyonce, calling her an inspiration and wearing posters of her. This isn't your typical celebrity fallout. We're talking betrayal. However, things changed somewhere along the line, and it's easy to understand why when you hear what has allegedly been happening behind the scenes. Exploitation and some quite sinister charges. Let's go back a bit. When Rihanna first entered the scene, she was a young, impressionable girl who was being mentored by Jay-Z. She has acknowledged that she was extremely anxious during her audition, but what she didn't admit openly at the time, but it's just now beginning to come to light that Jay wasn't just her mentor. Rumor has it that he locked her in his office and coerced her into signing when she was just 17. Can you imagine what that would have been like? Eventually rising through the ranks and then learning that Beyonce, the one woman you believed would stand with you, is apparently involved in the same issue. Numerous sources claim that Rihanna believed she could trust Beyonce. According to others, Beyonce didn't only dismiss the claims that she sought support when she was feeling frightened after Jay was hit on, but instead she received radio silence, or worse, accused manipulation. What Rihanna was going through but deliberately attempted to draw her farther into the toxic circle, including these alleged freak-offs with Diddy. Yes, freak-offs. These weren't simply crazy parties. They were supposedly planned meetings with celebrities, power struggles, and a lot of awkward coercion. Diddy's name keeps coming up in these circumstances, as does Beyonce's. According to reports, she and Jay frequently attended these events and attempted to woo Rihanna to join them. However, when she declined, her career abruptly took a turn for the worse, as evidenced by the notorious Anti-Ale album. Background Rihanna's album was intended to be her breakthrough project and defining moment, but it leaked early on the site that Beyonce and Jay-Z own. Coincidentally, many fans don't think that's the case and believe it was deliberate sabotage. Rihanna had to release the album ahead of schedule, and without the full promotional effort, it was overshadowed by the excitement around Beyonce's Lemonade. One album sold 124K, while the other 653K did the same. Additionally, insiders claim that Rihanna and Beyonce were meant to attend the same Tidal news announcement, but they failed to stand next to one another, communicate, or even make eye contact. The sly event was planned to keep them apart. And it's not just industry clumsiness, it's a deep-seated conflict. Now that Rihanna is revealing small details of the narrative, people are making the connection. And among the most strange connections is the cheesecake story. If you recall the Making the Band show, there was this notorious episode where Diddy forced the boys to travel 4 hours round trip in order to bring him a piece of cheesecake. Everyone assumed it was just Diddy power tripping, but Freddie P., a group member, claims the cheesecake wasn't even for Diddy. Rather, it was for Beyonce, who was apparently in the building and asked for it. If this tale is accurate, it begs a lot of issues because Diddy reportedly utilized the guys as delivery boys to wow her. She was also reportedly upstairs eating the cheesecake the entire time while they were sweating it out on the streets, depicts Beyonce as having participated in Diddy's degrading power plays, rather than merely watching. It wasn't a single occasion either. The baby also says that Diddy hosted a secret party. Beyonce allegedly approached him and greeted herself as though she were a typical visitor, but what really caught his attention was how small the group was. Just a few individuals, including Jay-Z, Diddy, and Beyonce. Jaguar Wright, who has been exposing business secrets for some time, said this was just another crazy situation, and that Beyonce was attempting to entice the child into one of the, when compared to everything else, those interactions, the cheesecake, anti-leak, and cold shoulder to Rihanna, become more predictable. People have often questioned why Rihanna, with all her fame, why two of the biggest names in music never ever collaborated on a verse is beginning to make sense. This isn't about music. Rather, it's about power control and preserving an image that Rihanna chose to distance herself from. That entire system, she created her own business with Fenty, and perhaps now that she has had her third child, she is ready to stop shielding those who have never shielded her. Freddie P's tale about that cheesecake may sound absurd at first, but when you consider it closely, it's a serious red flag. A 4-hour trek for dessert on national television degrades young guys like pawns, and it wasn't even for Diddy. Beyonce is said to have pulled the strings that completely changes the story, and Freddie didn't just say that without a hint. You could tell he had been keeping that in mind for years. It was as if he was finally putting the puzzle pieces together. The question: there is obviously a deeper connection between these two issues. First, why would Beyonce engage in such humiliation? Secondly, why would Diddy be so eager to win her favor? That level of influence doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's becoming more difficult to dismiss this as gossip or resentment, since more people are joining forces and sharing their own stories. They're not only criticizing Diddy anymore, they're also bringing Beyonce and Take Jaguar right, for instance. Whether people agree with her or not, she has been naming names for years. She was extremely consistent when she brought up Beyonce's attempt to get the baby engaged in one of these, before more rumors surfaced about private rooms, VIP guest lists, and A-list celebrities remaining long after the parties finished. People laughed off these strange gatherings. These weren't merely social gatherings. They were supposedly, it's usually the same formula. A rising star enchanted by fame is taken into the inner circle, where they see and hear too much and are drawn into it. Invitation-only occasions where boundaries were blurred and authority was misused significantly. And if they comply, they receive the go-ahead. If they don't, things start to go wrong. Suddenly, albums are postponed, collaborations end, media reports begin to portray them in an odd way, and the public is unaware of it. What actually transpired behind the scenes? This is where Rihanna's narrative truly hits home. She was one of the few that refused, and she basically disappeared from the music industry. Sure, she's made billions with Fenty and changed who she is, but musically she dipped. People thought it was just that she was leaving the industry, but what if it was that she was shielding herself from it? If what is being stated is accurate, Rihanna didn't just avoid an unpleasant collaboration. She dodged a... There are even allegations that Rihanna was pushed into one of those parties by Jay-Z and Beyonce, and they responded when she refused. One of the most prominent theories that is being circulated is that the release of her Anti-AL album wasn't. The platform from which it leaked wasn't just any website. It was Jay and Beyonce's baby, and they had control over what happened there. Rihanna's biggest endeavor unexpectedly leaked ahead of schedule. Many people are not happy about her entire rollout, especially after what happened next. Beyonce's Lemonade had extensive red carpet treatment, a massive campaign, positive reviews, and award shows. One album was elevated while the other was buried. And when you combine that with the Tidal link, it's difficult not to feel that Rihanna's Anti didn't receive the same love, despite the fact that many view it as one of her best albums. As if on purpose, people also began to notice how estranged Rihanna and Beyonce got after they stopped being seen together at events and stopped recognizing one another online. There was no cooperation, no united appearance, nothing at all, just utter silence. And let's face it, if two of the biggest Black female musicians of this generation can't even communicate with one another on social media, then something's certainly wrong. There's also the disparaging tweet that Rihanna isn't. I only know how to be number one. I could use a challenge. How'd it feel down there on your knees? Was the subtle but effective remark she wrote after posting a headline referring to her as the UK's music queen. Savage. And many immediately saw it as a jab at Beyonce, especially since it happened immediately after she released the song that truly confused people. Beyonce had spent years, it felt like a heel turn, when she suddenly released a song demanding women to kneel down after establishing this empowered feminist image. It wasn't in a playful, self-assured manner, but rather as a reminder of who's boss, like an implied threat, particularly in light of the reports that she is attempting to exert covert influence on other female musicians. As a result, we are left with this unsettling image of Beyonce, the world-famous singer, apparently engaging in a far darker game. Behind the scenes, Jay-Z has long been accused of being inappropriate, controlling narratives and pulling strings with new talent, while Rihanna managed to break free but paid a price in the form of leaks. The moment Rihanna's followers realized how uncomfortable things were during that Tidal press event was the one that truly broke the illusion. Everyone was expecting at least a little bit of sabotage and being shut out of an industry she helped shape. Rihanna and Beyonce's connection was a staged quiet, and when the cameras weren't there, the two were like magnets inverted upside down, never speaking or even looking at one another. Then there were rumors that Rihanna was blackballed, that she wasn't conducting interviews, and that there was bad blood. Flashing witnesses reported that the atmosphere was chilly. After Rihanna's quick rise, most thought she was merely focusing on Fenty or taking a break. However, as more musicians began subtly corroborating the strange things they had witnessed behind closed doors in the industry, Rihanna's seclusion became more public. It became much more apparent that Rihanna wasn't sleeping, but rather defending herself. According to insiders, the last straw wasn't even the album leak, but rather the private freak-off invitations. Several sources have stated that Rihanna was personally compelled to attend one of Diddy's notorious after-hours parties. These weren't your average parties. The guest list was strict, the security was strict, and only people who had been thoroughly screened were allowed to use phones. Got in, and everyone who knew had to be sponsored by a regular Rihanna was reportedly urged to go by Jay-Z and Beyonce. When she declined, things went south. The irony is that Beyonce has established an image as a guardian of a voice of empowerment for women. But if the allegations are accurate, she has been playing both sides, publicly endorsing feminism and women's rights while reportedly siding with the same men who exploit young women behind closed doors. People are shocked by duality, not just by betrayal, but also by hypocrisy. The story is further complicated by the fact that it all began with great admiration for Beyonce, as evidenced by the videos in which she extols the virtues. The picture wasn't so lovely once she entered the circle. The warmth that had been there before was replaced by manipulation and chilly shoulders. Stories about their early interactions even brought tears to her eyes while discussing the counsel Beyonce provided her, and possibly fear. Then there's Jay-Z, the man who launched both women's careers. He's been accused of having a thing for younger artists for a long time. There are rumors that date back to when Rihanna signed, when she was still a teen, still had big eyes. One phrase in particular, Jay told her that there were two ways to leave here: through the window, and they were on the 29th floor, or through the door with a signed deal, sticks out. In retrospect, that line sounds more like a warning than a joke. Rihanna later tried to maintain her composure in interviews to avoid upsetting anyone, but the underlying, she was clearly treading carefully, because of changes in her tone and the cautious language she used. She knew too much, and in her field, knowing too much limits your alternatives. You have to comply or go away. She spent years focusing on creating her own thing, Fenty Savage billion-dollar brands that didn't require the music industry's approval, and now that she's shown she doesn't need it, silence speaks louder than words. More truth is beginning to seep through the machine's cracks, not through major exposés, but rather through small remarks and decisions like continuing to refuse to collaborate with Beyonce after all these years. In the meantime, Beyonce's name continues coming up in discussions that she most likely doesn't want to be a part of. The cheesecake story went viral for all the wrong reasons, and the infant remembered her getting close to him at Diddy's party drew more questions than cheers. These moments no longer feel isolated. Rather, they feel like the parts of a puzzle are finally coming together. People are paying attention online now, and they're grabbing snippets from interviews. The more they compare dates, the worse it appears to be. Not only for Diddy or Jay-Z, but also for Beyonce. Her meticulously maintained facade of poise and control is beginning to fall apart, and fans are beginning to realize that perhaps they've been cheering for a mask all this time is crazy because the song has always alluded to reality. The lyrics about betrayal, secrets, and rage are different today, and the bow down isn't just a flex anymore. It feels like a threat. Rihanna's subtle jabs are also noteworthy. Ultimately, this is about silence and power abuse, not about who sold more records or stan wars. Her assured detachment from that entire staff seems more like survival strategies than a drama. Beyonce may have contributed to the continuation of the darkness that Rihanna left behind, whether she realized it or not. If even half of the accusations are accurate, the whole basis of contemporary celebrity adoration will feel much more unstable. Furthermore, with Beyonce facing additional challenges and Rihanna remaining visible but careful, examination than ever, one thing is certain: narrative.